Hi, today I'm talking with Natalie, and I'm going to have a really good time with Natalie because I really like Natalie. And we're going to be talking about addiction and recovery from addiction, right? Right,
Absolutely.
so I'm Diana. I'm a coach and I'm in the UK and I do relationship coaching and life coaching and mental fitness coaching as well. So, who are you? Because not everybody will know you like I do.
My name is Natalie Sanders, and I am originally from Würzburg, Germany, but I live in Tampa, Florida now. And I am the Insight Coaching Community Director, which is how I found Deanna as my friend. And yeah, and I'm excited to talk on this subject. It's a subject very near and dear to my heart. I am almost 4 years in recovery right now from
Oh,
alcoholism, and my life is totally different than it was. And I love talking about it. And so,
amazing.
yeah, I'm excited to be here.
So, how long have you been an addict?
Oh, goodness. I guess since I started drinking, like I had a very normal childhood. I had a very,
Mm-hmm.
like my parents were great. Like there was no trauma or
Mm-hmm.
abuse or anything like that. But when I got into college and everything, I started drinking just kind of like everybody else did, just to fit in and be cool.
Yeah.
And um but it never really kind of crossed that line
Mm-hmm.
until I would say I was like 26, 27 years old. Before that, I was just a normal drinker like everybody else.
Mm-hmm.
And I was a bartender. So it's like I drank a lot, but it was my job, and it was
Yeah.
part of, if I mean, if anybody watching is in the restaurant industry, that's what we do. We drink, and it's
Mm-hmm.
it was just a daily part of my life. But at one point it stopped being a luxury and started to be a necessity.
Yeah.
And I'd say that was in my like late 20s.
Mm-hmm.
It got to the point where I became very physically dependent on it, where I always had so much alcohol in my system that when I tried to stop drinking, I would have like seizures. I would have
Mm.
very, very physical reactions to detoxing from alcohol. And
Mm-hmm.
because it was just constantly in my system. And so
Yeah.
that's when I started to think there was a problem, because when you're that deep in addiction, you don't necessarily realize it. Everybody around you realizes it, but you don't really see it. But there was something in me that said, maybe there's a problem here. But I just kept going and going and
It's
going,
hard.
and it got worse and worse and worse, and the consequences became worse and worse.
Yeah.
And it got to the point in my early 30s where I was and it was a good like 3-year run where I was drinking 24/7. Like I had to
Mhm.
have alcohol in my system 24/7, and I always had vodka with me. I had a bottle
Oh wow.
of vodka with me
The
everywhere I
real
went.
stuff.
Yeah. I had stopped drinking like the fun stuff and the beer and the whiskey and whatever I was drinking at the bar. And I was drinking in private. I was hiding it. It was constant.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and that's when I knew there was like a major problem. And
Mm-hmm.
so I found the 12-step recovery program at that point when I was about
Yeah.
32.
Okay.
And I continued to relapse and relapse and relapse and
Yeah.
relapse. Like I just wasn't
It's
getting it.
not easy. Yeah.
Yeah. And so then I hit rock bottom. I lost everything in my life. At that time, I was engaged to be married. He left, lost the job, lost the car. I mean, like everything fell apart. I
Yeah.
couldn't hold everything together anymore. And so that's when I really understood
Mm-hmm.
that I was an addict and that this was
Yeah.
like a major big deal. And so that's when I really kind of jumped into the 12-step
Yeah.
recovery program, and my life started to change after that, and that was almost 4 years ago. So it's
It's
been remarkable.
everyone that I know that has been an alcoholic or an addict in whatever way, they always had to hit rock bottom before they saw the light in some sort of way. So I guess that's pretty much how it goes.
Hmm. And that's what we say. And, you can't deny somebody their bottom.
Mm-hmm.
So if you know somebody who's struggling with addiction or alcoholism, they've got to hit and they've got to hit hard or nothing will change for them. It's like insight coaching. It's like they have to figure it out for themselves,
Yeah.
any kind of major change to happen. So what a lot of parents or partners do with somebody that they love that's struggling is they'll put a pillow
Yeah.
under them to keep them from falling, and
Yeah.
they want to, not necessarily enable them, but to keep, they want to protect them and they want to
Yes.
help them so much that they're not allowing the person to really hit their bottom. And that's
Yeah.
when the change really happens.
Yeah. I remember now that you're talking about this, a film that I watched in secondary school,
Mhm.
um, during some classes on society and stuff like that, because we had those. And that was about addiction. And it was the story of a boy who was constantly saved by his mother and didn't hit rock bottom until finally his mother gave up on him. And that's when he made the change. It
Yeah.
was quite fascinating, actually. It was a dreadful story because this was heroin addiction and everything. So it was an awful story. But his mum really tried to help him. His dad had long stopped doing it and would, struggle with his mum and fight with his mum about it. But his mum just couldn't let go. But once he had hit rock bottom, yeah, it's actually, yeah, really interesting how that's so kind of with everyone that way.
Yeah. And they, the people that are trying to help us, they're doing it out of love. They don't know
Yeah,
anything better, but
it's
it
hard to
really,
let your kid just drop like that.
but in reality, you're harming them more by enabling them, by continuing to help that,
Yeah,
they have to figure out that there are consequences, and
yeah,
so somebody keeps saving you from that. You think like, oh, well, I guess I can keep going because this person's always going to be there to like
yeah. You
help me
can.
out.
When you constantly have that safety net, there's no need
Exactly.
to change anything really.
There's no need to
I think
change.
it's with other issues that people are struggling with as well. It's not just addiction. I'm seeing this pattern now with people that I know that are in, you know difficult situations in their life. The moment that it's feeling like rock bottom, they make changes. When it doesn't, they won't.
Yeah, yeah,
It's quite
exactly.
fascinating.
And I remember, my I was very functional,
Mhm.
so nobody knew that I
Mhm.
was severely alcoholic. Like I was really good at, because as addicts and alcoholics, we are master manipulators because we
Mhm.
have to be.
Yeah. Yeah.
You
Yeah. Otherwise, everyone knows.
Yeah, we learn real quick how to lie and how to manipulate our way into, because at the heart of it, it's a disease of selfishness, self-centeredness, self-seeking.
Mhm.
Um, it's all about me and what I can get out of this. And so, and recovery is the opposite. Recovery is about service and helping others and getting out of yourself. And
Yeah.
but so I mean, like I don't remember where I was going with this, but
That's all
I went
right.
on a tangent. But it was what were we saying? Oh, anyway. But yeah, it's all about, it's a very selfish, self-seeking
Yeah.
disease. And
Yeah.
so recovery is the opposite. Recovery is about helping other people and about
Yeah.
getting out of your own head, really. And it's hard at first because we've lived our whole lives. Oh, that's what I was going to say. We're master manipulators, master liars,
Yeah.
and for me, nobody knew about it. And so what I found was all of the people close to me would tell me things like, you're not an alcoholic, you're not an addict, you're fine, and
Mhm.
so I would run with that. I would think like,
Yeah.
you're right. I'm not, even though I very obviously was, but
Yeah.
when people were trying to be helpful it can be harmful because
Yeah.
that I went for another 2 years after my fiance and my mother and everybody were like, you're fine. You're not an alcoholic. So,
Mhm. Well, one of my friends, I found out after he quit already that he actually was an alcoholic. He hid it really well. I never knew. I really never knew, and that been for a while, and it was really surprising when he told me that. I said, "What? You never saw you take one drink?" No,
yeah,
I never did.
yeah.
fascinating. It's really
Yeah.
fascinating how people can hide things like that so well.
And it becomes very lonely
Yeah,
because
I
of,
can imagine.
you know, at one point I stopped going out to bars and like having social drinks with my friends
Hmm.
and everything because I was so deep in my own alcoholism and I just wanted to be by myself and I just wanted
Yeah.
to be with my vodka and like
Hmm.
becomes very like a hermit, like you don't, you know, and it just, you just
Yeah.
really cut yourself off from everybody and
Yeah.
from everything. And it's very lonely.
Yeah. I've not been as deep as you have. I've just had the odd week where I felt just really, the pity party and then just indulging in the bottle, but it becomes really lonely really quickly. So I get what you're saying, because that's just, in a week's time, I had to think, I'm getting lonely. I can't do this anymore. So I cannot imagine how bad it is when you're doing this structurally, because for me, it's just the odd week here and there that it's happened. So,
And it becomes a very physical, um, so you're not only dealing with the emotional
hmm,
trauma of it, you're
yeah,
dealing with physical symptoms. And, you know, every day I was either blackout drunk or I was hungover sick, you know, and the hangover was so bad at the end that the only
yeah,
thing that made it go away was more alcohol in my bloodstream.
yeah,
And I ended up going to medical school for a couple of years after all of this, and I learned about like why this was happening and what was physically happening to my body and to my brain. And it's just, it's crazy. It really is a disease, you know,
yeah,
it's a disease of the brain.
yeah,
Like we don't have what other people have that
hmm,
tells us this is bad and we need to stop, you know, like
yeah.
some people can stop at a couple drinks, and with us, like that just, it doesn't work like that.
Yeah, yeah. A friend of mine. She was talking about some research that had been done. I don't know, in the 80s or in the 90s, where they found a difference in genetics between those who do get addicted and those who don't.
Uh-huh.
And I've always had this thing of I probably have the don't because I've been through bad phases and I do drink for about a week, but then I quit again. So I've always been really happy with that thought that I probably don't have the bad genes, because I do know a couple of people who do, and it's not pretty. My
Yeah.
stepdad was one of them, and it was he would drink gin and he would drink lots of it. He could go through a bottle, and it was really really awful. Yeah.
Oh
So yeah.
yeah, and the fact that you can just quit when you want to, probably, you know, I can't tell you if like if
But
you
that's
are an
I'm just
addict,
hopeful.
yeah, you have to know it. You are the only one that can decide that. But
Yeah.
you know, like at least in my personal experience, like I couldn't quit. Even when I was feeling like, oh my gosh, this
Hmm.
is terrible. Like you just literally cannot quit.
Yeah. I've
Um,
I've
oh, it's
had it with anything. So even with smoking, when I'd done it for years, at some point I had this thing, oh, I'm fed up with this, and I just quit. So I'm probably one of these lucky genetic people with that, because
right.
for
We
me it
call you
worked.
normies is what
But I'm
they're
quite happy to be normal in this field. I'm pretty weird in other fields, so I'm good with being normal in this. Yeah. So, um, as you've done the 12-step program, are you helping people who come to ask you? Because there's somehow, I have heard from some friends who are in the 12-step program that they then, after they've been not addicted for a certain amount of time, that they then start helping others go through the program, and how fulfilling that is. Do
Oh
you do
yeah,
that as well?
absolutely. It's called sponsoring,
Okay.
and it's the only way that it works. I mean,
Hmm.
if there were no people
Yeah.
in that room when I walked into that room that day, like if there was nobody there to help me, like that, I would be dead. I know I would be dead.
Yeah.
And and so it's, yeah, after you, it just depends on what group you're part of. Some
Hmm.
people, and you need to have like 6 months of recovery before doing that. Some of them you just need to be through the 12 steps
Okay.
before helping, but that is the 12th step, is helping
Yeah.
another alcoholic or another addict to achieve sobriety.
Yeah.
And it is amazing. It is amazing helping somebody through.
Yeah.
very scary at first because you think to yourself, like, I don't know anything. What am I going to like teach this person? But then, you know, when somebody who's sick and suffering and comes to you and asks you for help, it's just like you just jump right into action,
Yeah.
and you have so much to say about it, and you walk them through the steps, and you walk them through, you know, you're always available to them for when they need to
Mm-hmm.
call you and stuff like that. And it helps not only them stay sober, but it helps me stay sober because, like I had mentioned before, I'm stepping outside of myself and helping somebody
Yeah.
else.
It
And
almost sounds a bit like coaching.
yeah, exactly. Yeah. So that's why I was very interested in the whole coaching thing, because I'm like, wait, so it's like sponsoring for money, pretty much.
Yes. Different topics, but yes.
Oh
Yeah.
yeah. So it's yeah, it's very similar to coaching, and you're just, except that I think that the difference is with sponsoring, it's like we are the expert and we do
Mm-hmm.
know what's best for you, and you don't know
Mm-hmm.
what's best for you, kind of thing. Especially when you're new. And so it's like we have a little bit of an iron fist, but you need that, you know, and
Yeah, yeah. It is a different topic. So,
yeah,
as
yeah,
a coach, I don't need to know it because the person I'm coaching knows it.
right,
But, you've just been through that whole program. So you
right.
know where the difficult spots are. So
Mhm.
you've done it. So yeah, you're the expert. As coaches, some people are also fairly expert because they've done it all, but we don't have to be. That's the difference.
Yeah, exactly. And you don't have to be the sponsoring either. You just need to basically walk them through the book, walk them through the steps. And it's so the 12 steps themselves are, I think the biggest thing that was like amazing to me when I
Mm-hmm.
came to this program was like, I thought that I was just going to learn how to not drink. And in reality, like the obsession to drink left me really quickly once I made once I was in the program and made the decision. The
Mm-hmm.
whole program is it teaches you how to like live your life and be like a good human being and get on a spiritual
Awesome.
path and personal development. And it's all of these
That's
things
great.
you weren't able to do when you were drinking, and
Yeah.
so a huge part of it is plugging in spiritually to a higher power of your own understanding. And so
Mm-hmm.
meditation is a huge part of recovery.
It's
It's the
amazing.
whole 11th step, and so
Cool.
it was so amazing to me, like how the obsession to drink left me, and then what's left is this person that's just been using that addiction to cope with everything in my life up
Mm-hmm.
until that point, and
Yeah.
so just because you're sober doesn't mean that life is happy and roses and amazing. Life
No.
still shows up on life's terms. And now I have a toolkit. I have the
Yeah.
tools that I need to get through it
Mm-hmm.
without to cover up the feelings that come along with it, with alcohol or drugs
Yeah.
or food or sex or gambling or whatever your addiction is, and so it's really remarkable how it works, and it works. It just
It's
does.
really, yeah. Um, Everybody that's really gone through it properly that I know has changed their life complete
Yeah.
overhaul.
Yeah.
Nothing stayed the same. Well,
Different
maybe
person.
their marriage, but that's about it.
Yeah.
Yeah, a few stayed married and their kids are still there, but other than that, most of them completely different job, just completely different life. Yeah. It's
It's
totally
incredible.
amazing. Yeah.
It's incredible. And so, part of the program is to constantly seek, is a word that they use a lot, or we sought to improve our conscious
Mm-hmm.
contact, prayer and meditation with our higher power as we understand him.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's a huge thing for me, is seeking. I'm constantly seeking ways to connect spiritually, to develop
Yeah.
myself personally, like this course I'm taking with you. And,
Yeah.
like
Doing amazing stuff.
yeah, like I have crystals and I'm constantly
Yep.
meditating, and I'm like, and in that, my life has just totally changed. And it's just like recovery
Yeah.
is incredible. And if anybody watching this is struggling, like there is a way out. I promise. It
Yeah.
doesn't seem like there is, but there is
I think
work.
the way I see the friends that have gone through it is that you also learn to take care of yourself in a really good way, instead of, because you were talking about how it's a selfish thing, but
Mhm.
it's also a destructive thing. And what I see is that they have changed into treating their bodies more like a temple, taking care of themselves, which some people see as a selfish thing as well, but I don't. So it's quite fascinating that they really change from this whole destructive behavior in all sorts of ways, in their relationships, in their job, and everywhere, to really, treating their body better, eating healthy foods, but also treating the people around them in a much better way, and being able to have a decent living with a nice job or even a business.
Yeah, that's a good point. Like it's almost like we switch from being selfish and self-seeking to a form of self-care.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Because at the end of the day, we can't help other people if we haven't taken care of ourselves
The
first.
airplane.
The
Yes.
oxygen mask and the
Yep.
airplane kind of
Yep.
metaphor.
Yeah.
So that's a really good point. It's like we go from, there is still a form of selfishness, but it's a
A
helpful,
healthy one. Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
You can have the destructive selfishness, which is unhealthy, but also the oxygen mask selfishness, which is very healthy.
right.
I think
That's a good
once
point.
you're in that on that, and when you have that in your brain, you probably won't be able to go back into really drinking either.
They say, it's very hard to go back out with um, a belly full of booze and a head full of 12-step recovery,
Mm-hmm.
because it ruins it. Like if I wanted to go out and drink, I wouldn't have a good time at all. I'd be like, oh my God.
Yeah.
But I don't want to. And that's the miracle, is that like I went from a point of, it was literally the only thing I was thinking. Like it was, where am I going to get it next? Oh my
Mm-hmm.
gosh, I'm about to run out. Do these people know? Holding everything together by threads and just like manipulating my life. And who did I lie to about this? And who did I lie to about this?
Yeah.
And it went from that to just like, I don't even think about it at all. And that's the true miracle of this, is
That is
like,
really cool.
it really rewires your brain, because
Yes.
it's a dysfunction of the frontal lobe, which
Mm-hmm.
involves your judgment, your
Yeah.
um, decision making, things like that. And so it literally rewired my brain. And so when I hear about courses and things
Mm-hmm.
about brain rewiring and use of meditation for that, like that's a thing that
Yep.
works.
It does. It does.
Computer.
I have a crazy question, maybe. I know that when people stop smoking, that slowly but carefully their lungs recover and become clean. They won't 100% recover, but for like 90%, they recover. Does your liver do the same? Because alcohol is an attack on the liver.
Yes, liver is regenerative for the most part. The only, so yes, the liver can get better unless it's progressed to cirrhosis. If it's
Okay.
progressed to cirrhosis, which is scarring of the liver,
Yeah.
then it cannot, the cells can't regenerate. And
Mm-hmm.
that's pretty fatal at some point, if the cirrhosis is um, very far along. But
Mm-hmm.
if you have not progressed to cirrhosis, your liver can completely, the liver cells regenerate and it
That's
completely heals.
cool.
And also your brain.
Mm-hmm.
When I was in treatment, they showed us MRIs and pictures of an addict's brain versus a
Mm-hmm.
normal brain, and it literally looks like Swiss cheese. There's holes
Oh
in the
wow.
cortex of the brain, and
Mm-hmm.
the regular brain is, nice and whole, and it's just kind of like pitted and
Yeah.
scarred. And so it really does affect the brain, and even that starts to heal and regenerate. And after like 20 years, it'll never fully recover from it,
Yeah.
but it looks much better after, a couple decades of sobriety and stuff.
Yeah.
So yes, that the
So
answer
that's
is
like with the lungs. The brain is doing what the lungs do, but the liver is doing a better job by the sound of it.
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Cool.
I think the liver is like one of the most regenerative organs in the body. It's just a big sponge, basically. I mean,
Yeah.
so yeah, that's a good thing, that if it
Yeah.
hasn't progressed to cirrhosis, but if it has progressed to cirrhosis, unfortunately, the only um, solution to that is a transplant, which I have a
Mm-hmm.
lot of friends in recovery who have cirrhosis and are waiting for a transplant, and that's
Oh, wow.
tough.
Yeah.
It's really tough to have like completely overhauled your life and turned into a completely different person, and you have this huge physical,
Yeah.
reminder of
Hmm.
that every day. But
Yeah.
it's choices that they've made. It's the choices that we've made, and we have to come to terms with that.
Yeah. 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 You're gonna have to do a lot of soul searching on those kind of things because that's rough.
Yeah.
Yeah. This was really interesting, actually. Don't know whether I have any more questions. I haven't checked. I've been so engrossed with this conversation that I haven't even checked whether anybody is. Oh, yeah, a friend of mine. Um, so no questions, just a couple of likes and a comment. The comment is, "I love hearing this. My experience with family going through 12 steps has not mirrored this positive outcome. Possibly, just not yet. Hopefully." So yeah, that's cool. Yeah, I think for everybody there's a journey. I don't think you know it works for you, but I also know of people that had 2 or 3 tries at it. It may not be the first try, but yeah.
I know people that
Or
have had
first
10
try, or
tries. Yeah,
sorry.
I know people that have had like 10 tries at it and they still can't get it. It's just,
Yeah.
yeah, you're right. Every single journey is individual and
Yeah.
different.
How many tries did you need?
I lost count.
Okay. Yeah, I just wanted to make sure that you know.
Yeah, no, it was not like, oh, I got it. And no,
Yeah.
it took about 8 months total of relapsing. Of once I decided to uh, go into the program,
Yeah.
um, and start working the steps and everything, I couldn't get it. I just continued to relapse. And my first sponsor actually fired me because she
Oh.
couldn't work with me anymore because I wasn't getting it. So
Hmm.
did not come easily to me. And,
Yeah.
uh, and I
But you're
understand,
there.
but I'm there. And once I did, it all came down to surrender. It
Right.
all came down to, yeah, I can't do this anymore. And
Hmm.
something I heard that really made a lot of sense to me was the military definition of surrender is to lay down your weapons and ask and wait for direction. Lay down your weapons and wait for direction. Like
Wow.
I was done fighting. I couldn't do it. I literally had nothing left. During those 8 months, we call it yets coming true. So
Hmm.
when you first try to get sober, there's a lot of yets that haven't happened. You haven't gotten a DUI yet. You haven't gone to jail yet. You haven't, killed somebody in the car yet. And so those are your yets. And so a lot of
You
my
don't want to
yet,
reach most of those.
yeah, yeah. So a lot of those started to come true for me. I lost the job, I lost the marriage, I lost, and so my yet started coming true to the point where I had nothing left,
Hmm.
and that was like what we had talked
Sounds
about at the beginning.
scary.
Rock bottom was really
Yeah.
what did it for me, and I was just like, I can't, like,
Yeah.
I can't, I have nothing left.
It really sounds a scary place to be in.
It is. It is, and a lot of people battle suicidal thoughts when they get to that point.
Oh yeah. Totally get that.
Thank God I didn't, but some people just don't want to wake up because
Hmm.
it's gotten to that point of they feel there is nothing left to do, and there's something on the other side, and it's there for you. You just have to ask for it and do the work.
It's not always easy, I think.
It's the hardest thing you'll ever have to do, but it's like
Yeah.
it's worth it.
Yeah, I know. I get that it's worth it because look where you are now. Your life is starting to look pretty pretty. Yeah. Yeah, it's
Like,
amazing.
it's amazing the things that have happened in my life, and I attribute that to my spirituality too, and just like all of
Mhm.
the spiritual and personal work I've done in my heart, my soul, and my, you
Yeah.
know, but I wouldn't have done any of that without kind of being forced to through this program. And
Yeah, I get
so
that. Yeah.
I always say I wish everybody worked a program because, the steps are, the first step is surrender. And then the fourth step actually deals with writing down all of your resentments and all of
Yeah.
and working through that and talking with another alcoholic about that, and getting rid of your character defects and seeking spiritually and stuff. And it's just like,
Yeah.
everybody should work some sort of program like that for
Yeah.
themselves, because
Yeah, one of my friends has told me that a couple of times as well. What was for him the most important thing that he did on the program, as far as I understood it, actually, I don't know whether, but that's the one thing that he talks about regularly, is the asking forgiveness.
yeah. Oh, the amends. Yeah, making amends.
Yes, he went to his mum and a couple of other people, and it was really interesting hearing him talking about that, how that really changed it for him, because he started seeing what he'd done. So when he actually, it's two friends that have talked about it, because now I'm starting to mix them up. But yeah, they would go to the person that they hurt, but then also have to hear out how that person got hurt, and that can be going really deep.
Yeah, that's a very important step, to
Yeah,
really take responsibility for the choices that you made,
yeah,
and to apologize to the people that we hurt. And it's so hard. It's so hard to do that. It's so embarrassing and humiliating. You think in your head, but then when you do it, for the most part, a lot of people react very positively to it.
yeah. I think
Not
it can
everybody,
be
but
really fulfilling as well, but you
yeah,
only see it afterwards, not
yeah,
right away. Because right away it will feel like, oh, I'm already in a lot of trouble. It's already been so hard. Why do I have to do this as well? I can see that going through people's brain.
yeah.
I think the afterwards, when you look back, I think it will be really, like cleansing even.
And it feels almost like closure. Like,
Yes.
okay, I've closed the door on that part of my life. I have
Yeah.
like tied up all the loose ends. I made apology, and so it's like, we, we look back we can look back at that point and use that to help us. Like, yeah, the amends portion
Hmm.
does kind of tie all of that up,
Hmm.
and it repairs relationships too,
Yeah.
like, it's
Yeah.
really something for the people that are receiving amends to hear that, to hear like,
Yes.
know what I did wrong, and I am so deeply sorry, and you don't have to forgive me, but
Hmm.
just know that, I'm working on being a better person, and I'm so sorry for what I've done. And it means a lot to people to hear that when they've
Oh
been hurt.
yeah. Yeah.
You do some pretty effed up stuff.
Hmm. Yeah. I totally get how it could work from both sides. As being on the receiving end, it will really make you feel like, oh wow, they're really doing something, and it really feels, I don't know. I think it's also really hard to not forgive them when someone comes to you and comes clean and wants to start over and do that.
Yeah,
And I can see how it can be really hard for the person doing it, but also how fulfilling it will be once it's done. So
yeah,
it's a fascinating thing. Yeah, I
yeah.
like it. Somehow I like it. I like the process.
It's
You
amazing.
can
It
you can
works.
put it onto so many things, because even in coaching you can use a similar
Hmm.
step program to help people get from one point to another when they are in a really really difficult place and they want to get to a much better place. Not
Exactly.
exactly the same, but you can certainly adapt and make something really nice out of it.
Yeah. And we say, alcohol is but a symptom. And you
Mm-hmm.
can do this about drugs, sex, gambling,
Yep.
food, what you're smoking, whatever you're using is a symptom of something that's going on that's deeper than
Yeah.
that. That's not your problem. Like, my problem wasn't the alcohol. My problem was me. My problem was my mind.
Yeah.
And the alcohol was a symptom that it was a crutch I was using along with other stuff too.
Yeah. Yeah.
It wasn't just alcohol for me, but and so once we can remove that, then you really have to do the work and get deep inside and unpeel the onion, and figure
Yeah.
out like what it is exactly that you're covering up.
Yeah.
And yeah, I think every single person has that.
Oh
We
yeah,
all
we all do
have
that.
something that, yeah.
Oh yeah, we
So
all have things we don't want to face.
yeah, exactly.
And it can be really hard to face them, because then you need to change things in your life, and that's not always an easy step to take.
We're human. I
Yep.
really honestly believe that that's, why we're here. That's the point of life, is, we come up against these
Yeah.
battles we have to fight, and these, things we have to learn, and our job is to get better and to
Yeah.
be
One
better.
big learning experience.
Yeah,
That's how I look at it. Yeah. Yeah.
exactly.
Cool. Is there anything else you want to share?
No, thanks for letting me blab on for an
Oh
hour.
no, it was cool. It saves me the hassle of asking questions.
No, I love talking about this stuff. And I encourage anybody, if anybody's watching this that wants to get in touch with me and ask me any more questions about it or is struggling, like I'm here. This is what I do.
Awesome.
So, yeah, thank you so much, Diana.
You've
This was
been
awesome.
tagged in the video, so they know how to find you. It's just one click.
I'm
And then
here.
you have a message. Okay. Well, thank you very much for joining me. This was actually really interesting. I really, really enjoyed it. And I thought it was fun as well, despite the heaviness of the topic. But we had a good laugh here and there, so that's always good.
Yeah.
So, yes, thank you. And, well, thank you all for watching.